That's the part we are missing. When I say that integration is not a permanent condition, America is not a permanent condition. It hasn't always existed. So if America ever becomes fully integrated, we are not stuck there permanently. If at some point in the future we say we as a people are ready in a reasonable, rational way, we have a program in order to see these things through, we have people who are actively making it happen, I can understand that. But my position is in 2015, today, right now, the black community is not ready for separation. You must understand, what she is offering you is not separation to begin with. She is consistently offering you voluntary segregation. The mic is free.
All right, Firehead, did you want to weigh in on that question? You do. Okay, 2 minutes. Come on up.
Again, my opponent is making my argument. If in 2015 black people have not progressed to a significant point of self-independence, then that proves my statement that it's no good for us to be integrated with white people. It does not matter if we are overwhelmingly integrated. If we are not the shot callers, if we are not the people who are in true control, it doesn't matter if we live with them, around them, for them, in them. None of that matters. We need separation, or whatever fancy terminology, whatever type of trickology word you want to use. We want to be separate from white people. We want to call our own shots. We need our own land. We need our own hospitals, our own schools, our own economic black infrastructure for black people. That's my premise. Period. I do not care to see black people living in the midst of whites. We can do it and be separate from them and still trade, still share, but we don't have to be ruled and controlled by white people any longer. And again, if not today, then when?
All right. Now I'm going to call up Brother Jason Ostucky Sr. To ask a question. Come on up, Jason.
Okay, if I could be heard, can I get a one? Okay, my question is this. Um, it seems like integration failed and segregation surely failed. How would we go about being a sovereign nation like the Native Americans did? Which route would you guys be willing to take to try to get us there? Because it's been a proven failed and so did segregation. So that's like the middle. They both failed. They both failed us very bad. Yes, it's to both contenders because it never segregation failed like a motherfucker, and so did integration. It failed. So, what steps would you take to become a sovereign nation like the Native Americans? Because that's part of this argument.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Firehead. When you say that integration has failed, that is simply untrue. Integration is a process that is underway. We don't know what full integration looked like because it has never existed in America. We haven't gotten there. How could you possibly know? The point I'm making is our impatience can be one of our worst enemies. We must understand that what we are doing in 2015 didn't start yesterday. When slaves were being hung on the trees, our fight was already underway. We are continuing that same fight. I would never tell a black person that we shouldn't have our own sovereign nation. But I would tell every black person that in 2015, we as a people are not ready to function as a nation. It is evident in our communities, and it has absolutely nothing to do with the white man. The mic is free.
My question would be, how many, and we can start with the 147 people in this room. How many blacks are you willing to sacrifice while we wait? We've been waiting for 400 years for this to happen, and it ain't happened yet. So how many more black lives are we willing to sacrifice while we're waiting? We're done waiting. It's time to move on. That's our problem. We wait, and we wait, and we wait, and nothing happened. And to say segregation has never worked, we didn't have the economics. We did not have the education back then that we have now. So I think that is an unfair statement to say segregation did not work. Segregation was never given to us on our terms. It was forced upon us. Okay? We're saying segregation according to our terms, with the education and the knowledge that we have now as a strong people. We are a people of endurance and determination, and nobody can take that away from us. Because for what blacks have gone through, for us to still stand in the light of which we stand today, no other race could survive the tragedies black people have survived, and yet we still stand. You would like to focus on black people who have some issues, but you're not comparing that to other races. We're the ones who are put in the media. Other races are not. They glamorize anything black people do. It's on the television screen. But they don't glamorize the good, only the negative. They don't glamorize the good we do. They don't glamorize the power black people have with their dollar. And so they continue to make black people think that we are a broken, destitute people when it is quite the contrary. So I disagree with you, Jason. If given the opportunity to be segregated according to our standards and our terms and our conditions, I think we will do just fine. After all, we've lived in this shithole of enslavement and colonization, and we've been okay. We're still surviving. So imagine what we would do if we were on our own, if given the opportunity. If we got to take it, then so be it.
All right. Now I'm going to call up Mai Dunama. I believe that's the name, Mai Dunama. I hope I got your name correctly. Please come up and ask your question.
Yeah, I appreciate that. First question is gonna go to Soul Power. I want to know how the brother, he said that there can't be any integration and separation. Like you can't be a separate nation. So I want to know, in light of history, um, how do he, keep that position when the Hyksos basically did the same thing in Egypt? They were living there as a separate nation. Then you have the so-called founding fathers of this land when they, they was here as colonies. They lived amongst the Native Americans, and they even rebelled against their government, which is in England. And I want Fire here to address Soul Power point on how we'll become a sovereign nation. Like, how will we do that? We'll have to have states to do that. Do you think these people would just give it to us? Because I don't think they would sell it to us. So how you propose going about doing that and defending it at the same time? Mike free.
Thank you, Brother Kush. That is an excellent. And I'll let Firehead talk about the sovereign part in that. But when we talk about integration, and I want to be clear that I'm understanding your entire point. I don't want to go sideways with you. As a matter of fact, I've got this. Hold on. I got to put this puppy out here. God damn. Oh, sorry. Fire, can you go ahead and answer him right quick? Let me put this puppy out the back door.
Well, don't get nervous now. I blame it on the dog. To answer your question, I think that we do it the same way white folks do it. We have to build an economic infrastructure, which will include a military force. I don't think anything, well, it could, a start would be the reparations that is owed to black people, not given, owed. You know, I don't like when people say they need to give us. They're not giving us anything. They owe us reparations, and we're entitled to them. So that would be a good start. The second part would be black people uniting on one front and putting our economics together to build and create an infrastructure for black people. We would have to work out the kinks. You know, as long as we continue to say it can't happen, it won't happen, well, it never will. You know, the North and the South had a separate currency. How did we get to one currency? You know, eventually we'll have to go to war. And people will say, well, war will never work. You don't know what will work until you try it. So, your mic.
Okay, Brother Kush, I'm sorry I got kind of sidetracked there for a second. If you don't mind reiterating your question, I want to be on point with your question. Thank you, sir.
Okay, Brother Dunama, you can come and take the mic, my Dunama, and ask the question again that address soul power.
Yeah, I mean, the question was, you said that it would be, next to impossible to be a nation within a nation. Like, it's not realistic. So what I'm asking is, how do you defend that position in light that the Hyksos did the same thing in ancient Egypt, and these people, the sons of the former slave masters, they did the same thing. They had a colony amongst the Indians, and they even were a nation within a nation because they rebelled against their own people back in England. I hope that makes it clear.
Well, I mean, the key element that we're missing is the spirit of nationhood doesn't exist in the black community. When we talk about these other people, they were on one accord. All of them wanted nationhood. All of them was willing to die for it. I think most of you are just talking. You're not ready to lay your life down. Maybe one or two, if that. But do you really think the spirit of nationhood exists in the black community? Look, I'm not trying to say anything bad about my people. But if I can't be honest with other black people about what I see, then who can I be honest with? When you talk to the black youth of your neighborhood, is that the spirit they're talking about? Or is they talking about pop your pussy and shake your ass? Please, shoot your mama, kill your daddy, choke the dog. Come on. This is what's on the mind of stupid kids. They're not talking about building a nation. But all of these groups you look at through history, you can look at the Jews as they came to power. You can look back in Egypt. You can look at the Indians and a lot of these groups that became nations. They were on one accord. It was in their spirit. And until we get it in our spirit, it is not practical or realistic. The mic is free.
Okay, next question will be by Exceltico. Exceltico, please come up and ask your question.
Yeah, thank you, Room. So power, that was a nice debate that you guys have. I want to bring back African issues because we have two countries in Africa, Zimbabwe, whereby we have a president um, who did what Firehead is talking about, and the country is fucked up now in Zimbabwe. He drove all the white people away, took all their lands. It happened in Zimbabwe. The country, people are dying of hunger there. And then I will talk about a country that did what you are talking about. It's called integration, and also forgiveness.